Hello, everyone. They don't tell you this part. They don't tell you that when you start chasing greatness, real greatness, you're going to lose people. That the higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes. That when you level up your thinking, your vision, your standards, you often end up doing it alone. Because the truth is, the path to greatness isn't crowded, it's quiet. And most of the time, it's lonely. Everyone wants the spotlight, but nobody wants the silence that comes before it. People talk about the glory, the wins, the headlines. They admire the success, the trophies, the lifestyle. But what they never talk about is the price no one sees. The nights you sit with your thoughts and wonder if you're crazy for wanting more. The birthdays you miss, the relationships that fade, the judgment you face from people who say you've changed. They're right, you have. Because the version of you that's chasing greatness is not the version that fits into every room anymore. This is the part where most people quit, not because they're not strong, not because they're not talented, but because they didn't expect the isolation. They thought chasing their dream would feel exciting every day, but instead it often feels like silence, like distance, like discipline in the dark, like staying home while everyone else is out, like making decisions that no one claps for, no one understands, and no one supports except you. But that's the test. That's the toll gate on the road to greatness. And the question is this: can you handle it? Can you handle waking up early while your circle sleeps in? Can you handle being misunderstood by people who still think small? Can you keep showing up, building, refining, improving when no one's watching, no one's validating, and no one's cheering? Because if you can learn to embrace the solitude, if you can use the silence to sharpen instead of suffer, then isolation becomes your superpower. In that space, you stop depending on noise. You stop seeking validation. You stop living for approval and start living for alignment. You start becoming someone who doesn't need the crowd to move because you've learned how to move with purpose in the dark by yourself. And here's what they don't realize until it's too late. If you can't handle isolation, you're not ready for greatness. Because the spotlight doesn't make you, it reveals you. And if you didn't build your strength in the shadows, you'll crumble under the weight of attention. So if you want to win, prepare for silence, prepare for sacrifice, prepare to walk alone, because the price of greatness is isolation. There's a moment in every person's life when they feel it, a quiet pull away from the familiar, away from the crowd, away from average. You don't always recognize it at first, but deep inside, something starts to shift. The conversations you used to enjoy start to feel shallow. The people you used to vibe with don't inspire you anymore. The habits you once called normal now feel like dead weight. You're not judging them. You're not better than them, but you're being called somewhere else. And this is the point where most people hesitate because separation doesn't feel good. It feels unnatural. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. It makes you question yourself. You ask, what's wrong with me? Why don't I fit in anymore? Why does this feel lonely? But here's the truth: the discomfort you feel, it's not a problem. It's a signal. It's the universe telling you your path is diverging, that your time in that space is over, that if you stay there, you'll shrink. Greatness demands separation not because you're trying to prove anything, but because staying small would kill everything inside of you that was meant to grow. And yes, it hurts. It hurts to walk away from people who were once everything to you. It hurts to distance yourself from the old version of you that everyone still expects. But if you're serious about where you're going, you have to learn how to let go of what's behind you. Even when it still wants to hold on, people will take it personally. They'll say you've changed, and they're right, because growth is change, and growth by nature separates. You can't expand and stay the same. You can't evolve and still cling to what once kept you comfortable. That's not how it works. When you start chasing something higher, the air gets thinner. Not everyone is built to breathe where you're going. Not everyone has the lungs to withstand that kind of pressure. So the crowd thins out, the circle shrinks, and in that space it's just you and your purpose. And if you haven't made peace with walking alone, you'll keep running back to the people and places that no longer serve you, just so you don't feel lonely. But the real ones know solitude is not punishment, it's preparation. It's where clarity forms, it's where confidence is built, it's where you stop being influenced and start becoming intentional. When no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one's validating you, you find out who you really are. You find out if this path is something you want or something you're willing to become. Because walking away doesn't just mean saying goodbye to distractions, it means saying goodbye to parts of yourself. the insecure version, the approval seeker, the one who used to water themselves down just to be liked. That version can't come with you. Greatness doesn't leave room for it. You don't rise by blending in. You rise by breaking away, by standing in your truth when it's uncomfortable, by staying loyal to your standards when no one around you is, by holding your vision tight when people laugh, doubt, or drift away. That's the price. And that's the moment most people can't survive. Not because they're weak, but because they're still trying to carry everyone with them. But the higher you go, the more you realize not everyone was meant to come along, and that's okay, because the real ones, the ones who are meant to walk beside you at the next level, you'll meet them there, but you don't wait for them. You don't slow down hoping they catch up. You move, you walk your path, you follow the pull, because greatness doesn't wait for comfort, convenience, or consensus. Greatness walks alone first, then it leads. So if you're in that space right now, feeling disconnected, feeling distant, wondering why things don't feel like they used to, that's not failure. That's the beginning of separation. That's the first crack in the old shell that can't contain who you're becoming. Don't fear it. Don't fight it. Let it break. Let it stretch you. Let it take you away from what was and toward what can be. Because if you have the strength to keep walking, even when it gets quiet, you'll wake up one day and realize you weren't losing anything. You were just becoming someone the old world no longer recognized. There's a kind of silence that hits different when you're on the path to something bigger. Not the peaceful kind, not the relaxing kind. It's the kind that makes you question everything. When the noise is gone, when the people are gone, when the distractions are gone, you're all that's left, just you and your thoughts. And in that silence, something happens. You either discover belief or you bury it. That's the truth no one prepares you for. Isolation isn't just about being alone physically. It's about being left alone with your inner world. And for most people, that's the scariest place they can be. Because when it's just you, you can't hide behind routine. You can't cover the doubt with busyness. You can't silence your fear with entertainment, or validation or likes. The mirror gets real, and you realize just how much of your confidence was built on noise. In that silence, all the fake stuff burns away. You find out what you actually believe about yourself. Not what you tell the world, not what you post, but what you believe in the deepest part of your mind, when there's no audience. And sometimes, that belief is paper thin. Sometimes it cracks. Sometimes it disappears altogether. That's when the real battle begins. Because in isolation, there's no one to talk you back into the game. No one to hype you up. No one to hand you momentum. It's just you. And that's where most people break. That's where most dreams die. Not in public failure, but in private doubt. Not because the goal wasn't real, but because the belief behind it wasn't strong enough to survive the silence. But for those who lean in, for those who choose to sit in the silence instead of running from it, something powerful happens. You start to hear your real voice. Not the one shaped by fear or shame, or the opinions of others. The real one, the one that remembers who you are when the world forgets. That voice doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you're too busy, too loud, too distracted, you'll never hear it. Isolation is the training ground for self-belief. You don't build that belief when everything's going well. You build it when no one is watching, when the feedback stops, when it's 2 a.m. and you're wondering if any of this is worth it. And still you choose to keep going. You choose to show up. That's belief. Not the loud kind. The quiet, dangerous, unshakable kind. The kind that doesn't need proof to act. The kind that doesn't wait for permission. The kind that keeps walking long before the results show up. That belief is rare, and you can't borrow it from someone else. You have to earn it yourself, and the price is almost always silence. If you can't stand to be alone with your thoughts, you'll always chase noise to feel okay. You'll look to the crowd to feel seen. You'll look to applause to feel worthy, and none of that will ever be enough. Because deep down, a part of you will always know, it's not real belief, it's borrowed energy. But when you finally face the silence, and stay there long enough to hear your own convictions, your own drive, your own reasons, you begin to build something unshakable. You realize that even without support, even without attention, even without guarantees, you are enough to keep going. And once you know that, once you've felt that power, no one can take it from you. So if you feel isolated right now, don't panic, don't numb it, don't try to escape it. You're in the fire, yes, but it's the fire that forges belief. You're being stripped down so you can rise stronger. You're being emptied so that you can refill with truth, not noise. Most people won't make it through this stage. But you're not most people. Sit in the silence. Face the questions, burn the doubt, and when you rise, because you will, you'll rise with a mind that no fear, no failure, no loneliness can ever break again, because belief built in silence is the kind that lasts forever. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being forgotten or abandoned. It comes from growth, from walking away from everything that used to feel like home, because you outgrew it. And now you're on a path where no one's clapping, no one's calling, no one's checking in. That kind of loneliness, that's not weakness, it's the test. You want to grow, you want to rise, you want to build something extraordinary, and then you need to understand something very few people ever accept. You will be lonely at times. It's not personal, it's not punishment, it's the process, because when you start to break away from the crowd, you also start to break away from the comfort of always being understood. You start making decisions that don't make sense to people who aren't on your frequency. You start talking different, moving different, thinking deeper, working harder, and slowly people fade, not because they're bad people, but because they weren't meant to walk every chapter with you. And in that silence, that's where the test begins. What will you do when the room is empty? What will you do when there's no one there to remind you why you started? Will you shrink? Will you second guess? Will you go back to the old version of you, just because it felt safe? That's what most people do. They feel the pressure of being alone, and instead of expanding, they collapse. They chase connection, not truth. And in doing so, they trade evolution for acceptance. But the ones who rise, really rise, they sit in that silence, without flinching. They don't need the noise to validate them. They don't beg the crowd to come back. They use that space to sharpen. They use it to listen, to grow, to become. That's the difference between those who dabble with greatness and those who embody it. The ones who evolve are the ones who stood in the quiet long enough to own it, not escape it, not numb it. They let the weight of loneliness mold them, break them, rebuild them, and in doing so, they became unrecognizable to the version of themselves that once needed constant connection just to feel alive. Because real strength isn't built when everything feels good. It's built when you're tired, when you're questioning everything, when you're tempted to run, but you don't. You stay. You breathe. You let the isolation show you who you really are. That's when the shift happens. One day you're sitting in that same quiet room that used to feel like a prison, and something clicks. You don't feel small in it anymore. You feel solid. You don't feel forgotten. You feel focused. You realize the loneliness was never a punishment. It was a mirror. It showed you everything you needed to face so that you could become who you were always meant to be. You stop needing people to understand you because you've learned to understand yourself. You stop chasing permission because you've already given it to yourself. And that's where your evolution begins. Not when people see it, but when you feel it. Because if you can sit in loneliness without shrinking, you'll come out the other side with a level of self-trust that nothing and no one can shake. That's the true reward. Not attention, not applause, alignment with who you really are, with who you're becoming. And here's what makes it powerful. Once you've evolved in silence, you can walk into any room, any challenge, any battlefield, with peace, because you've already survived the one place most people run from: being alone with their own soul. So if you're feeling lonely right now, don't just endure it, use it. Let it strip away what's false, let it refine what's real, because the next version of you, the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't bend, who doesn't break, that version is born right here, in this exact moment, in this stretch of silence most people avoid. This is your test. And if you can sit in it without shrinking, you won't just survive. You'll evolve into someone no crowd could ever create, because you built yourself in a place no one else could see. There's a reason the crowd never reaches the summit, not because they're not capable, but because they can't handle the climb alone. They need company. They need comfort. They need to be surrounded to feel secure. And when the path narrows, when it steepens and grows silent, they turn back. But the ones who rise, they keep walking, alone. They walk when the cheers stop. They walk when the support disappears. They walk when their name is forgotten, and their progress feels invisible, because they're not in it for recognition. They're in it for truth. If you can learn to walk alone, truly alone, you unlock a power most people will never access. Not, not because they don't have the potential, but because they're addicted to being understood. They need the world to agree with them before they move. And in doing so, they never leave the crowd. But greatness has never lived in the crowd. It's never been built in consensus. It's never been birthed from groupthink or comfort zones. Greatness lives on the edges, where there's risk, doubt, and solitude. It lives in those invisible miles walked when no one else believed it would be worth it. To walk alone doesn't mean you hate the world. It means you've chosen to follow a path before the world approves of it. You've chosen vision over validation, discipline over distraction, destiny over popularity. That choice will cost you, and most can't handle the price, because walking alone feels like rejection at first, like exile, like maybe you were wrong, but keep going long enough, and the trail starts to look different. You see things the crowd never sees, not because you're more special, but because you were willing to go where they wouldn't. You discover parts of yourself that can only be found in solitude, strengths you didn't know existed, layers of resilience and purpose that only show up when there's no one left to carry you but you. That's the gift. That's the trade. Walk alone, and you might lose people, but you'll find yourself. You'll meet the version of you that can't be shaken, can't be talked out of their calling, and doesn't need applause to move. And when that version wakes up inside of you, nothing, not fear, not doubt, not silence, can stop you anymore. The world will catch up eventually. They always do. Once the work is done, once the result is undeniable, once the transformation is visible, they'll call it genius, talent, destiny. They won't see the nights you questioned everything, the mornings you showed up anyway, the empty rooms you had to fill with belief, the long walks you took without a single soul beside you. But you'll know the price you paid to walk this road, and you'll know it was worth it, because the views from the top, they're not just breathtaking because of where you are, they're breathtaking because of who you had to become to get there, because you earned it, step by step, mile by mile, in silence, in doubt, and most of all, in solitude. Most people won't get it. They're not supposed to. It wasn't their mountain. It was yours. Sess. 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 If you get the strength to stay the course without applause, if you can keep going when the world is silent, then you will reach places the crowd will never touch. But because you chose yourself, sus, and you never stopped walking, so, sus, 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 sus. It's not found in crowds. It's not handed out by the world. It's forged in the dark, where no one claps, where no one sees, where no one walks but you. Sus.
That's the price.
Not talent. Sus. Sus. Sources. Isolation. The willingness to walk away from what's familiar, so you can grow into what's possible. And most people, they'll never pay it. They'll trade their calling for connection. They'll choose acceptance over evolution. They'll look around for company, instead of looking within for strength. Sus. 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 You can stand in the silence and face yourself. You can walk through the loneliness and let it transform you. Sus. 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 You can climb even when the path narrows and everyone else turns back. Sus. Sus. You can choose to become something the world can't ignore, because you built it when no one was watching. And one day when they ask how you did it, you won't talk about applause. You won't talk about timing. You'll say, I paid the price no one else was willing to, because you did what few have the courage to do. Sus. 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 They'll walk alone, so now the question is yours to answer, not with your words, but with your life. Can you handle it?